Hello again, Twitch. Welcome to Telling Tales. It's Thursday night. That means it is Cincinnati Chronicles, specifically the final climactic arc of our long-running World of Darkness crossover series, which probably makes very little sense if you tune in at this point. So if you do, you're more than welcome. But I do encourage you to seek out our YouTube and check out the previous arcs for the full context of the glory and horror that you are watching. Speaking of YouTube, let's do the promo stuff. If you check below this video, you'll find links to Twitch and to YouTube. You're watching us on one of those sites. Please do check out the other one. Twitch is where you can see us live, and YouTube is where you can see all of our video on demand. You'll also find links to our Patreon, our Discord, our social media. Get involved with those if that's the kind of thing you like to do. We currently run 3 different campaigns weekly on the channel. Mondays is Vason with Johnny and the Monday Crew. Wednesdays is our long-running, I egotistically call flagship series of Simbarum from Free League. And Thursdays is this, Cincinnati Chronicles, at least temporarily. This probably won't be a huge long-running one, but we're hoping to throw something else onto Thursday evenings after that. We also do 1 or 2 one-shots every month, fresh systems and short stories and bite-sized actual play innings. The next one of those is this Sunday. That's Sunday the 25th of June, where we'll be playing Land of Eam, which is a lovely whimsical fantasy with a little touch of melancholy. It's been described as the Muppets meets Lord of the Rings. If that's your thing, then please do pop along this Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon BST. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then in July, we're playing a homebrew TTRPG based on the Bat Out of Hell album by Meatloaf. I keep shrugging, but that's because I still don't know. And we're also going to be playing Hell Knight, which also is about biking and bikers and evil bikenings. So I have dubbed July Motorbike Month on Town Tales. It's definitely taking off because I've said it several times. So that's, clocking up the amount of usage. No one else said it yet, or written it or referred to it in any way. But, it's bound to take off sooner or later, hopefully before we finish Motorbike Month. Just, makes me a bit sad. That's all. Feel a bit low with it. So let's no, John has said in private chat, John did make a themed image for it, but I would say that themed image was an actual joke. So, well, in fact, let's bring John on to justify himself. Hi, John.
Hi, Matt. And it wasn't a joke. It was a concept mock-up. And you're going to look pretty foolish.
More like a concept mockery up. Sure. Okay. No, it wasn't a joke. But I don't think you were ever seriously expecting us to take the image you produced and put it out as...
No.
No.
Of course not.
A crudely drawn motorbike in paint. It was.
For people wonder, like, the image in question was...
Put it up on screen.
It is funny.
Can you find it? Well, I think it's worth it for the laugh.
Yeah, all right. Stall for time.
Yeah, so... well, while we're getting this image up, I'm not going to go into the recap bit, because I feel that would devalue the kind of, serious modern horror storyline with you then pop up the art that you put together for this. Here we go. Zoom in on that bad boy. Come on. There we go. You can't.
Oh, I can. Come on.
Is that... What's the bat? I recognize that. Is that Man Bat?
Yeah.
It is Man Bat. Okay, yeah. Like a man bat out of hell, as the song goes.
It's a bat demon and riding a motorcycle.
No, yeah. It's concept. Look, all I wanted out of you bringing this up, John, and this interaction was the awareness.
To shame me into never
no
any sort of creative.
Quite the opposite. What I wanted to do, it was actually to benefit me. What I actually wanted was when you came on and I said it was a joke, and you were like, it wasn't a joke, actually. I felt like people could have gone, oh, Matt was a bit harsh there. So what I wanted was you to put it on to make people go, oh, Matt's not an asshole. That does kind of look like a joke if that was the actual art.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. But now I'm exonerated. Now I've benefited, so we can end the bit.
Excellent.
I'm saying. So there we go. John.
Hi.
John, as all our players are, is playing a different type of supernatural being from the world of darkness in this big, ill-advised crossover arc. John is playing Abby Atkinson, former child's author turned dead woman. Dead ghost. Yeah. And it's fair to say, I think, that each of the characters had like their own little story last week. There wasn't really any crossover until right at the very end. So, John, do you want to give us the briefest of brief summaries of what happened to Abby last week?
Abby either came to or woke up or appeared or started existing in the ruined wreckage of the Citadel. Had a brief conversation with another survivor, and then tried to find something normal, and then got lost in a labyrinth and possibly chased by a monster. And then
and then we'll get to what happened next.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, when everyone's coming on. And speaking of everyone, not so like he represents everyone. It's Chris. It's Chris.
Chris has been, everybody.
Chris has been loving the Motorbike Month image discussion. Chris plays Beanstalk, a Silent Strider werewolf who has also been dragged into this strange scenario. And how was Beanstalk dragged into this?
I was minding my very own business on the Sept in the Sept of the Western Sea or something like that.
Sept of the Western Eye. So very close.
Sept of the Western Eye. It's very famous. It's almost as famous as the one in New York. But and I was planning to leave with or without my pack, but my pack eventually decided to come along and head north to Canada to find a cairn that had more connections with the changing breeds, which Beanstalk has been very interested in since his fated meeting with Branwyn, the Korvax, who assisted us in the werewolf thing. On our way, the van broke down, which is a callback to the original Werewolf series. But then reality also broke down a bit. And shortly thereafter, in Krynos, spoiling for a fight, Beanstalk was dragged through some kind of reality situation and awoke.
Yes, and we will find out where once everyone has had their turn of saying how they got there. So next up, it's Holly. Holly plays Natalia Wolf, our resident vampire, Toreador graffiti artist. Holly, Natalia had a bad week last week. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, it didn't go well. First, I came to the rapid realization that I should definitely get out of Cincinnati because people don't like me anymore. And after attempting to organize said getting me out of Cincinnati, the situation was slightly took out of my hands by a bunch of weird voices talking in my home in reference to not particularly nice memories from my past. And then, a green wizard appeared outside of my window and yanked me through space and time into a glass cage.
Absolutely. And what I really like is that description absolutely describes what happened, but also could be a description of the Great Gazoo from the Flintstones. Slash Mr. Mixelpitalik from Superman. So, which would make this a very different game, but I think we'll save that for the spin-off. Next, we have it's good old Pierre playing Carolyn Zelrech, resident. She's a right old time dancer of a mage. Don't ask us what that means. Copyright Telling Tales 2020 2 now, probably. Pierre, tell us about Carolyn's week.
So Carolyn was having, like, she was studying again at the Mage Academy. She'd gone back. She still had some memories of bad things happening. And then she was pulled aside by a professor called Akosua, who is a professor of Prime who she doesn't particularly like, who asked her and Mira and Roth, who were with her at the time, what the hell happened to her old professor, Will Cray, who appears to have we haven't heard back from him in a few months. And I think it was Mira who spilled the beans. And I think we were then seemingly in some trouble for not having told them sooner about what had happened, about the fact that he had gone and tried to investigate on his own. Then later I was studying in the library when everything turned very dreamlike. I took a book out, looked down at it, and it had transformed into a book of glass. And then I was accosted by that very same green-robed figure who took me away to this accursed glass prison. It's glass, actually, I suppose, but I don't know how it's, pronounced. You are muted, Matt.
I am muted, and there's a complexity to this, but we'll skip over it for now because I don't want to get bogged down by etymology in the before we've even started.
Spelled GLAS.
Yes, your book was spelled GLAS. It's still pronounced more or less glass with it.
Okay.
It's like final player, Inga. Inga plays Rhea, our changeling Eshu. And you, like, unlike everyone else, you had an amazing. No, it was pretty bad. Tell us what happened to Rhea, please, Inga.
It was pretty great for a while. I was just having
all right,
good old party. Yeah, just
got your head
hanging
kicked
out
in on purpose.
Yeah, well, but in like a fun way, like it's a fun fight rather than didn't do too badly in the end. Came out of it alive. It's all fine. I had a good time chatting to some rabbit pals and such, and then stumbling home drunk after a party and get snatched by some green wizard dude. So
the mismatch
ended the night on a bit of a bummer.
The mismatch of the different systems here, just like everyone else is. And you're like, was chatting to some rabbit pals. But that and it was even harsher contrast in the last session when I did them in order. So I did do Wraith right before Changeling. And it's just, wow, this is different. Anyway, to recap what happened right at the end, all of our players woke up. Is it actually even worth just straight up rereading the segment? Because I feel like I dumped a lot of description on you, and like I think that would help. Would it help to reread it?
Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. You awaken immediately aware of being slumped on a cool, smooth surface of some kind. As your senses gradually flood back, you realize you are contained in a reasonably sized glass box, as if on display in some obscene museum. Around you, arranged in 2 concentric circles, are more glass boxes, 10 in total. In each is someone or something else. And I'll get to who is in all these boxes at the end with a quick description. The floor of the large room around you is constructed of old pitted grey stone, overgrown with rampant and dead vegetation that covers almost everything. Light comes from what seems like a circular opening far overhead, which means that most of the chamber is shrouded in shadow and shafts of illumination that glint off drifting dust and plant spores. The walls look to be made of some stone and wrought dark iron with old flaking lighter paint. They are mostly also coated with creeping, partly withered plant life, and near them glitters shards and fragments of glass on the ground. The entire space seems like an odd merger between a castle and a greenhouse, both of which have seen better days. As your eyes eventually adjust to the odd light, you see one other figure beyond the glass of your case, beyond the inner circle of cases in front of you. At the very center of the room is a horribly familiar robed individual. He is suspended in midair, arms at his side and palms outward in an incongruously relaxed posture. under the dark green hood, his head tilts to one side as if slumped in semi-consciousness. He is completely still, but his hissing breath is labored and inconsistent, as if he is undergoing some great exertion. As for who is around you and in front of you, what I'm actually going to do is conveniently shuffle the... Here we go. So this is the order you're in, right? So to Natalia's left is Beanstalk, to Natalia's right is Rhea, and so forth. In front of each of you, and I kind of described them in a much more fanciful way in last thing, but we've used up enough time on the recap already. I'll just be direct about it. Natalia Wolf in the case in front of you is Loveland, the disreputable bourgeois primogen from Cincinnati. Beanstalk in the case in front of you is Branwen, the Corax, who helped you in the manufacturing plant situation. Carolyn Zelrich in front of you is Professor Will Cray, investigating the machinations of this robe figure. And clearly, well, he's found him. Abby Atkinson in front of you is the wraith of the old man who you knew to be doing the bidding of this mage, who I can't actually remember if Abby directly encountered the guy, or I know some of the raids did. I can't remember if Abby specifically did, because I think 2 of the raids went inside the building, and it doesn't really matter, but you'd recognize him from the description, because for you it's literally yesterday as well. So there we go. In any case, that individual and Rhea in the case in front of you, I think it's safe to say player and fan favorite NPC character Marshall, aka the Azure Knight, is slumped in his in his armor, and but without his sword at his side. So there we go. Okay. So I believe how we ended it last time is to say that a morose voice emerges from the case containing Professor Will Cray. Well, I could say with the utmost zeal that this is precisely not how I wanted this matter to end. Off you go.
Beanstalk will gradually sit up and take kind of a cross-legged position with a... It's hard to tell with the canine features, but as dogs go, this one looks upset.
It's, of course, worth mentioning that, they are fairly large glass cases, but you're definitely more cramped than everyone else. Beanstalk is especially more cramped than the 2 cases more or less opposite you that... I mean, they don't look empty. There's some swirling kind of translucent weirdness in them, but they're not. They certainly don't look to have actual human, people in them.
I'm going to try and step through the glass because it's just glass, right?
Sure. It seems like you're in the Skinlands, right? So you should be able to pass through by sacrificing some of your corpus. Unsurprisingly, this doesn't work. And you kind of it feels more solid than anything has felt to you since you died.
On a similar note, Natalia was going to start trying to kick the shit out of the glass.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm more than happy for you to make a roll to see at least how to see how comfortable you are that you can't break the glass. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So give me a strength plus melee roll, or plus brawl, I guess. Yeah, plus brawl. Strength plus brawl. Or strength plus athletics, actually, I think is fine too.
Whatever it is, I don't. I had 1 dice and I rolled 4, so no.
It is interesting, this, and it was worth making the roll, because I think, the higher results you get, the more you're sure about how hard it would be to do this. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if you've just failed, I think Natalia will possibly come to the conclusion that, it's just really tough reinforced glass, right? And not think anything of it. Whereas if you'd rolled 4 successes and it didn't budge, you'd be like, okay, something is going on with this glass, right? So there we go.
Can we hear anything?
You can hear everything everyone wants to do or say. The glass does not seem to baffle sound particularly well. Everyone heard what Professor Will Cray said. and you can hear the hissing breath of the green-robed mage hovering center and above you in the middle of the room.
I'll just say, Professor, fancy seeing you here. What's going on?
He turns around and says, "Oh, yes. You, yes. We haven't actually met before, but I'll forgive you for that misunderstanding." These are rather peculiar bedfellows.
How long have you been here?
Oh, a matter of weeks.
And how long of? And I sort of indicate the people on the. It's like an inner concentric circle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, so I'll indicate those people. Have they been here this whole time too?
Oh, the spirit over there arrived shortly after I did. Then the others more recently. This fairy creature, fascinating. Just before the others, just before you and these. Are they your friends? Everyone can hear this conversation fully, by the way.
There will be a snort of indignation.
As you snort, Natalia's just going to look over to you, having realised that she's right next to a werewolf, and like push herself to the other side of the glass.
Sure, absolutely.
Wait, hang on.
You can't. It's worth mentioning. This is a good point, actually, Beanstalk. You can't smell anything but yourself in the glass, so your senses are somewhat limited. Which means I won't allow sense worm or anything either, probably, if you have it.
Hang on. You said spirit. Can you see us?
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Should we not be able to? I'm sorry. It's been such a long time. Yes, everyone can hear a voice coming from the glass case containing Abby Atkinson.
I turn to the old man in the case opposite me, bang on the glass, and say, "What did you do?"
He kind of turns around and looks at you morosely and gives you actually a slightly sympathetic smile, a sad smile and a sympathetic smile, and says, Don't worry yourself. It'll all be over soon. We can rest. We can finally rest."
No. I don't want to rest. I didn't fight so I could rest.
We all have to rest. Professor Cray says, "I feel like that's a conversation we shouldn't necessarily be privy to. It's certainly confusing."
Yeah, I don't really feel like rest at the moment either. Okay, let's think about this. So, Professor, what have you tried? And I sort of knock on the glass.
Well, nothing myself, obviously, but I'm sure you could perhaps give it a go. I don't really have. It doesn't really work like that.
Okay. Yeah, I can do this. And
you think the professor might have.
Yeah, I'm getting that impression. How far away is like are we on the ground basically? Like
yeah, the cases are on the kind of stone floor that's scattered with vines of various sort of levels of healthfulness and some broken glass.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure. Maybe the first thing I'd like to do is just like feel the glass, because I've got this. I've got an impression that the glass is weird because
Sure.
because I know about this mage. So I like the thing I'd like to do is in some way sense whether the glass has any weird correspondence properties.
Okay, yeah.
And
So obviously that will involve correspondence.
Yeah, correspondence.
I don't think anything. Maybe matter.
I don't have any matter.
Well, that doesn't matter. It just ratchets up the difficulty, right? Or involves spending more quintessence. Isn't there a thing about that you can replace?
Yeah, I think you spend a quintessence and you can ignore 1 point. Yeah.
And you can ignore. Yeah.
Okay.
But I would just say it's matter 1 and correspondence 1. So I think if you spend a quintessence, it will.
Okay. I will do so. And I'm going to the way I'm going to be trying to do it is I think I'm going to like start tapping on the glass and like listening to the rhythm and just seeing if it reacts in the way that an instrument might, if it resonates, as a way of determining like how it goes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I now need to work out how difficult it is.
Absolutely. So it's normally coincidental. This counts as vulgar with witnesses.
With witnesses. Okay. Yep. Interesting.
I'm not saying there are witnesses, and I'm not saying it's vulgar. What I'm saying is it
counts
right
that
now.
Way.
It counts as vulgar.
It counts that way. Okay.
So that's going to be a base difficulty of 6.
6. Yeah. And maybe if I rap on it with like, can I have a drumstick? Is that an acceptable thing for me to pull out of my pocket?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah.
I'll start rapping on it with a drumstick that I pull out of like the hand wrap guard of my sort of costume, and I'll start sort of tapping on it at like regular kind of polyrhythms. So that's using a personalized instrument, which is -1, and I think I don't get 1 for spending quintessence. Can I spend more time doing it to make it slightly easier?
It depends if you want to spend the time doing it.
I think I do. Okay, I'll spend a little bit more.
Sure. So we'll keep this kind of going, and you can do that calculation, make the roll to yourself, and see how well you do, and then we'll come back to you shortly.
Perfect.
Cool. But I think as we've done in various other things, I think I will, because the party at this point obviously is quite separated, physically and spiritually. I think what we'll do is I'll roll a die, and we'll just kind of like move around and see what actions people are taking, whether they're speaking to anyone, that kind of thing, right? And obviously Carolyn is doing her thing. I feel like Abby also just kind of did a thing by having a conversation with the old man. So let's drop in with Rhea and see what, if anything, Rhea is doing.
I would like to try to create a portal passage using my Wayfair ability art. I don't know whether this is it's obviously like, tell me if I can't do this, Matt. But I'm wondering whether I can add to the difficulty of it to try and create, or whether it's like you said, 2 portals to also create a to open up a portal for Marshall as well.
Okay. I mean, unless the ability as described says that you can do that, then probably not.
So where is it? So it's basically creating doors. Hang on.
I think the only way you could potentially do that is by creating a door that goes from your case to Marshall's case, which probably doesn't help you.
Doesn't help much, no. Okay, well, I guess I'll just try and free me.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Well, as I've said with you, because I'm having to step back slightly from the system side of this, folks, because I can't juggle all 5 in my head. So let's actually step away from Inga there. You work out what you need to roll, what you need to do. do that, and we'll come back to you just the same as Pierre, and we'll see what's happened. How about that? So let's drop in with Chris next.
Hello.
What, if anything, is Beanstalk doing?
The first thing I want to check is if this glass case has any kind of internally reflective angles.
It appears like glass. There is a single light source coming down directly from above. You can absolutely find part of it to see yourself in, yes.
So before I act on that, I would like to just kind of check in with Branwen in a non-verbal sense, and just is she awake? Is she cogent?
She seems to be kind of picking herself back up to her feet and kind of groggily coming to.
Okay. I think in that case, what I might do is defer my action, give her a minute, take a minute for myself, continue to just kind of meditate and prepare for what is to come.
Sure. So you're not trying to step sideways just yet?
Not just yet.
Not just yet. Okay. Holly, after Natalia's crazy glass-based kung fu.
Yeah.
What now?
I think that at this point, she would try and talk to the floating wizard guy, or at least get his attention.
Sure.
Yeah, so she'd probably just like pound on the glass a little bit and then just say, "Hey, what are you doing? What's going on? Can you let us out?"
There is, unsurprisingly, zero response from the floating mage. Loveland, however, who is fully cognizant, kind of turns around in his case, sort of does a double take at the sight of you, and says, What is this? What the fuck are we doing here?"
You know as much as me. I got yanked out of a window and here I am.
I don't understand. What's this? I did what the prince asked. What is this? He starts to kind of like slam fists in, it has to be said, quite. He looks like he's on the verge of frenzy. Of some kind of panicked frenzy, and he's kind of thrashing away at the glass. It's not having any effect.
In which case, I'm going to try and calm him down a little bit and just say, "Hey, that's not helping. Let's just think this through very clearly. We're not going anywhere at the moment."
Well, that seems to me like a manipulation plus empathy roll.
Yeah.
Difficulty, it's not a 6, I'll say that. I'm going to say it's a 9. He does not like you, and this is not a situation particularly amenable to calming.
1 success.
Okay. Well, I think that's enough that maybe you don't calm him down from where he is, but you pull him back from the brink of full-blown frenzy, right?
Cool. That's all I was really after.
Yeah, he's still like thumping on the glass, just kind of going, "Shut up," over his shoulder at you. But he's not actually fully going for it anymore and trying to like gnaw his way out of the glass with his fangs or something awful like that. So there we go. Carolyn Zelrich, you rolled 3 successes, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Out of 3.
You perform your drumming and you reach out and touch the glass and you feel it resonate to the lightest brush of your fingertips. It kind of like, it feels like it warps for a second, not physically, but with the quintessence running through it. The incredible quantity of quintessence that you suddenly feel tapped into, running all around you, like almost for a second, your vision or your senses just become fast-flowing streams of brilliant light running all around through the walls, out through the open sky, all rooting and connecting together to a central locus floating over the center of the room in the form of the green-robed mage. You feel that for the briefest second, and then you feel this reality, whatever it is, snap back hard in place at you and send you tumbling backwards against the glass case. Take 4 paradox, please.
Oh, so, I think I just collapsed.
Do we actually have? Do you have a quick cheat sheet on what 4 paradox gain does to a mage in any particular circumstance? No, it's more than 5 points of paradox.
So I have
when you
in
roll
total, I have 6, but
I think
Isn't
it's
it
if
only
you
in one
take 5
go?
at once. Yeah. Like as it begins to mount, you might get
Yeah.
like more long-term effects, but they're more narrative ones, really.
Yeah.
But for now, I think that's fine. Yeah, but you can kind of like, however you want to feel that paradox exert itself on you, kind of like, I always picture it as almost feeling kind of slightly knocked out of your kind of like spiritual form. You know what I mean? Like you briefly astral projected to somewhere you really don't want to be, and now you've been slammed back into your body.
Yeah, and I sort of imagine that like whatever the astral body is because it's like correspondence related. It's just like it feels like it's about to burst out of me, and I'm like desperately trying to hold myself together.
Briefly, your hand feels like it's a mile to the right, like,
and you're like,
sort of thing, and then you look.
Not good.
Yeah. Can I? Here's an interesting thing to ask though. Now I don't have a mage sheet in front of me, which I probably should do, so I can't quite look at. Is there a mage ability called cosmology?
Let me search that up for you. Cosmology.
It should be on your sheet. It should be as a knowledge, I imagine.
Oh, yes. I have 2 points in it.
Absolutely. Could you roll wits plus cosmology, please? Difficulty 7.
Okay. 5 dice in total. Sorry, I am just trying 5 dice. Roll difficulty what?
Let's say difficulty 7.
0 successes.
Okay, never mind. I was about to give you a I was about to give you a bit of information, but nah.
I think I'm too preoccupied with like my exploding hand.
That's fair. So in a related fashion, Rhea, how did your roll for opening this portal go?
I'm just trying to remember. Ones cancel out successes, right?
Yes, they do. I believe they do. Hang on, I'll just double check the D20. Yes, ones cancel out successes, correct.
Do tens only count for 2 successes if it's like a that's only if it's like a special.
It's only if you have it's only if you have a speciality.
Yeah. Damn it! I had 2 successes, but also 2 ones. So after all of this, so
yeah. You don't know why particularly. It just doesn't feel like the cantrip doesn't feel like it comes together. A portal does not open. What out of interest, what bunk did you do? E.g., what weirdness are you doing that everyone else is looking at you funny for?
I am like it's almost like as if it was finger painting, but like without any actual paints, like drawing a kind of portal, like almost like sort of like witchy draw a circle kind of with your markings and stuff, but like on the glass surface around me.
Absolutely.
To try try and create a sort of like portal image. But no joy, sadly.
Absolutely.
I guess I'll also just see like if it looks like Marshall is awake or conscious. Marshall.
He does seem to be coming to now. He's kind of slowly turning his head and kind of blinking and rubbing his eyes. He is in kind of like troll form, so he's quite large and no, I'm not giving you a fuss. I'm trying to stop the bed falling over when you jump into it. People who just listen will have no idea what happened there, but there we go. Catscapades. There we go. Managed it. He's definitely coming to, and he's but he's in troll form and in his armor, so he's kind of like sort of he's rivaling, because I think Beanstalk is tall but not very mass. Like he's kind of a wiry Krenos, right? Chris?
Yeah, me. Oh, you're talking about a description of me. Yeah.
Yes.
Just pretty awful, wiry, very long, kind of
long
slender
limbed,
dog.
weird. sort of a werewolf equivalent of a sphinx cat.
He's
sort
a
of-
borzoi.
sort of thing.
I always pictured Beanstalk as like a borzoi.
Okay,
Well, it's like a
foldy
really long-
bits. Yeah.
No, just like the long snoot.
All right. Okay. I clearly don't know what a borzoi is. So he's what I'm saying. He's crammed in there, but he is coming too.
Marshall, you're right. What happened? How did you get here?
Oh, Lady Rhea, I fathom not. What is this sorcery? He gets his kind of stands to his feet, and as soon as he is on his feet, planted firmly, like one at the back corner of the case and one at the opposite front corner, he slams his fist into kind of the glass case, and it kind of ever so slightly just flexes to an almost minute degree. Can everyone roll classic perception plus alertness, please? Difficulty 6. And just give me a thumbs up if you've got any successes. I don't need to know how many.
How about a really bad botch?
We'll come to that.
Okay.
Yeah, really solid success. I saw whatever it was.
So Chris and Pierre and John, you hear ever so momentarily the hissing breathing of the green robe sorcerer stops just for an instant and then starts again. Marshall leans back a bit and slams his fist to get in again, and this time no movement.
I tried creating a passage, but I couldn't create the door.
Well, worry yourself not of that, my lady. This seems powerful magics at play here, and my blade awry. He kind of takes in everyone else for the first time, and for a moment, the Azure Knight slips away, and Marshall arrives as he gazes on everyone in the other cases and goes, "Whoa." Will Cray has been watching all of this quite carefully and kind of adjusts his glasses and says, "In a way, a fascinating field trip to see all these anomalies in the flesh. It's a shame there won't be any time to make research of it afterwards, I suppose." Holly, you were
Yeah. For like Marshall, can we see him in troll form?
That's a really good question.
Or does he just look like Marshall?
That's a really good question that I probably should have addressed before now. Everyone can see Marshall in troll form and Inga in Eshu form. Yes.
Okay. So on both sides, I've got the fucking weirdest creatures I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Cool.
You got big old weird fantasy monsters right next to you in these cases. Yeah.
I would love to know if when Marshall slipped out, was there enough of a transference, be it physical, that I would have any inkling of a recollection of him from the diner a million years ago? Well,
that's
1 year
interesting
ago.
because Rhea called him Marshall as well.
Yeah.
So you know what? Give me a intelligence plus alertness roll, I think. It's difficulty 6. I think so. His voice is the same. It's just he speaks in a very different fashion, you know. He's got the same kind of hair. He's got same face. Just
You'll want to keep me out of combat tonight because I am rolling big numbers. That's 3 successes.
Yeah, you think you recognize the big blue horned guy in medieval armor as the guy who served you at the diner. who helped you as well. You had a protracted conversation with him. The mechanic was his cousin, right? So,
okay, more information for the bean bucket. How is my favorite crow friend doing?
yeah, she's definitely recovering. She kind of looks around. She stares up at the green-robed mage for a good minute or so, and then kind of turns and examines everyone individually. And when she turns to look at you, she kind of, her eyes widen and she goes, well, this isn't a good situation to find each other in, is it?
I'll answer in Garu, and I will say, it is, however, good to see you again.
I'm not so sure we'll get out of this if we only rely on each other. So you might want to start speaking in a way everyone can understand.
For the moment, I am obliged, and intelligence dictates that I should listen. But I do want to try this. I do want to try this cage. I will.
You're just going to try and step sideways. Yeah, sure.
I'm going to have a go at stepping sideways.
Sure. Hopefully you can look up the mechanics of that, already have them, and can run it through.
My friend, I do not have to look up the mechanics to step sideways. What's you're going to have to tell me the
difficulty of the veil. Not the veil, the
gauntlet.
The gauntlet. That's good. Have you got a chart in front of you for it or anything like that?
Yeah. So a lab, a technocracy lab is.
This is 10. It's the easiest number.
Oh, so that's 4 minus
4,
1 is 3. So
yeah.
And again, I crush it, but only actually 2 successes.
Okay, so that's like taking about 30 seconds or something, right? I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Well, while that's happening, let's go around the others again, shall we? So let's visit in with Abby Atkinson.
I am as different to everyone else, trying their abilities and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try and look at the actual construction of the glass.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've done a lot of research into illusionism and escape artist and ways you would potentially stage a murder.
Sure.
In that kind of way. So, I want to try and see if
just examine the glass.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, sure. In a pseudo-scientific fashion, sort of, right? Okay. Have you got any ability that works more precisely than alertness for that? If you've got a high... you know what? Investigation is perfectly fine to me.
I've got enigmas. I don't know if that would count for
I don't think enigmas quite counts. But if your investigation is better than your alertness, certainly feel free to take that.
Yeah.
And add perception to it, please.
Okay.
And
5
then
dice.
You can take a difficulty of 7, I'll say. And as you're looking around the case, because let's keep things going, we will visit in with Carolyn Zelrich again.
I think when I heard them talking about sorcery, that will have piqued my interest.
What, Marshall and Rhea?
Marshall and Rhea. Hello over there. You look like friends of the mystic ways. Am I? My name's Carolyn. Pleased to meet you under such unfortunate circumstances. And then I'll sort of listen out.
Marshall gives what passes for a bow in the constrictive frame of the glass case he's in and says, "Good morrow to you, Lady Carolyn."
These walls, they seem to have incredible amounts of power coming from that guy over there. But I couldn't help but notice that when you hit the case, there was a flicker.
There was. I fear it felt that the second strike had been reinforced in some fashion.
Yeah, but that at least to me suggests that these walls are not infinitely high. There needs to be. I think these need to be maintained. Perhaps if we could apply force at the same time, perhaps each individual one could be subverted, but if we could convince these other fine individuals, I look to my left and right at the
the large werewolf is kind of staring weirdly at its own reflection in the glass right now. But other than that, yeah. Marshall, for his part, shrugs and says, I will attempt any plan, Lady Caroline, and kind of braces himself and stands ready. He kind of turns over his shoulder. Lady Rhea, have you any force to apply?
Rhea, nice to meet you.
Oh, yes, hello, Rhea. I'll do what I can.
Maybe you suspect even an attempt, like maybe another attempt at opening a portal or something along those lines. As you are doing this, Will Cray leans over to you, Carolyn Zelrich, and kind of sort of slightly sotto says, "You know, those aren't awakened. Well, they are, but they aren't. You know that, right? Those are fairies."
Oh.
And with all due respect, not everyone can wield the kind of primal forces that we have at our fingertips, but I'm not entirely sure that turning around thrice widdershins and dropping some petals on the floor is going to solve an awful lot.
I don't know. I could do with all the help.
I was actually starting to prepare for trying to unleash Wayfair. I feel like this might be a good time to do so because I actually rolled a success on that. With this Wayfair actually being one of, I was gonna just scream, oh gosh, like fuck off at the green mage muttering in the center. So I'm trying to, I guess, unleash Wayfair to thrust him God knows where.
Kind of just push him.
Away.
Yeah. So if you've got the rules for unleashing there,
yeah. So I just checked them and I've rolled. So
sure.
I've taken my. It's cost me a couple of glamour. I've got a point in nightmare now. So I've succeeded without going over, so it's not out of control.
Absolutely.
But yes, so where is it? It invokes it for a number of equal turns to the glamour.
Can I interrupt you because I don't need to know the mechanics?
Sure.
You said that so unleashing gives you a point of nightmare, right?
Yes.
It doesn't give you any banality though, right?
No, because I haven't botched or anything.
Okay, how many points of banality would a botch give you?
That's a good question.
Not that that's the amount that you're going to take.
It's okay. Look it up.
It just says like suffers a banality trigger.
Okay.
I'll have to.
Yeah. Go have a look, and we'll see how it works out. In the meantime, let's hop in with Natalia. I think is who we're due. Yeah.
Sure. I guess I'm gonna at first I was going to be looking at Carolyn and Professor Cray because they're the most normal looking ones that I've got.
Yeah,
near
absolutely.
Me.
Yeah, they look human.
to just say, what the fuck is going on? Can someone just tell me in simple words what is going on here? But then as soon as they started mentioning fairies, I would have just gone, what are you talking about?
Oh. Have we got a sleeper here?
I'm not sleeping on anything.
No, young awakened. That is Lampier.
Oh,
It's undead. Rather unpleasant things.
Rude.
yeah.
But
yeah, Professor.
to answer your, but you did. I am correct to say you kind of asked the professor what's going on, or them kind of what's going on. Right?
I was generally asking the group to mostly aim towards the normal looking ones.
Well, that is an interesting question. You really are dead, aren't you? Fascinating. The everything here isn't it isn't real in some senses, but in other senses it is the only thing that is real. This this entire place is a realm, a spirit world of the construction of him.
Am I
And we're
cogent enough
trapped.
to catch- Am
We're
I
trapped
cogent
here.
enough to catch that before I finish my step?
I will say no, and I'm just going to go round now a bit and talk about consequences.
Oops.
So we'll stick with you, Chris. You slip into the spirit realm and nothing changes.
Okay, well, that could have been worse.
You feel yourself moving through the gauntlet, and you're in exactly the same place, and nothing has changed. The umbra of this place is this place. And there is no non-umbral equivalent.
Okay, so they've already told us that it's a realm. I have points in enigmas and stuff. Can I have a good idea that this is a far umbral realm, and will I have a rough idea of kind of not exactly how it works?
Because enigmas works in place of cosmology for werewolves, right? So I
also have a cult, but
give me an intelligence plus enigmas roll. Let's ratchet it to difficulty 8, and I'll give you some extra information about it. And now we'll swing back to Abby, who's got 1 success on your investigation roll. I'll give you one piece of information. After examining the case, it's all one piece of glass. There is no mechanism. There is no seal. It's one formed piece of glass, rounded at the corners. And hollow, obviously. So,
Right. So we're out of the realm of a crime novel and into weirdness.
I mean, says the ghost who just went through a soul-destroying harrowing at the center of the spiritual universe. But yes. Rhea. So we didn't really go into like unleashing and nightmares and stuff like that. But you copied over some information into the thing. Do we know yet what a banality trigger specifically is, and whether it ups your banality or anything like that?
No, I'm trying to
That's
Google.
Fine. That's fine.
Sorry.
Well, what will happen essentially is that you suffer a banality. The stuff that happens there is what happens, right? For now, I don't think it particularly matters mechanically, because I'm guessing you ain't going to try something like this anytime soon. I mean, it says you can't spend glamour or use arts for the I'm assuming that's remainder of the scene.
Yes. Yeah.
So just basically, I would say banality feels like an unpleasant gravity dragging you back to normality, dragging you out of the dreaming, right? It's like this is a very personal thing, but I have spoken to other people and they also have experienced this at some time. I think a lot of people when they're quite young, maybe in their teens, have a sudden realization that they're going to die one day. Right? Like a sudden, and kind of have a bit of maybe a panicky meltdown about it in some form or other, or like a moment of spiritual crisis about it, right? This is the most Matt thing I've ever said on stream. I'd align it to that. For the briefest moment, there is no magic in your life. Right? No imagination, no promise of adventure or the fantastical. You feel what it is to be human. Horribly, horribly human. Basic, one might say. So feel free to roleplay that, which is a lot of fun. But I'm assuming it, to some degree, like Carolyn had to stagger back the paradox backlash, some kind of form of that, but you play it however you want. What does this look like from the outside? Do you want us to come back to you?
I mean, I think for Rhea, it is like very just quiet, sync.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably not much to look at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Mostly an internal spiritual crisis for just lovely stuff. Where were we? Had we paused with anyone? I think we've gone round everyone now, right? And yeah, Chris. One success.
Yeah.
You know this is likely a far umbral realm of some kind. You are aware that some realms are effectively kind of owned and operated entirely by powerful spirits, for example. You kind of, I think it's safe to say, people are mentioning him as the mage or the sorcerer because that's kind of what he looks like, but you don't know what this guy is. Maybe he is a powerful spirit, but whatever he is, if he runs this realm, everything that happens here could be according to his whim. If he directs this reality, it's not.
I will give Branwen a quick. We are deep below. I don't know how we will get out. But then what I will do is
Below is interesting. I'd say above, but I suppose it's a matter of perspective. You know more. She's pointing at the professor. But you said, were you about to do something there, Chris?
I think I want to know where this goes. I want to know what the professor, what beans the professor spills.
Another question: is Branwen in human form?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, okay. She looks human, not like either a crow or a weird crow monster.
I'm trying to keep track of all the normal-looking people.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
We should point out that the conversation, as perceived by everyone else, unless the realm is translating, is quite a thing to behold. It's a very kind of guttural and motion-based kind of. You might not even clock it as communication.
Yeah. Well, although Branwen is speaking English, but yeah, from I mean, some of you will know that it's a werewolf or lupine, but the big wolf dog monster is speaking in weird little growls and snarls and whines and dog wolf noises, which the woman in the case in front apparently fully understands. The professor is looking around with kind of some surprise that you all didn't know this and hadn't reached this conclusion.
Professor, could you just humor me? I mean, I need a bit of revision on my studies of these kind of strange places. How might one get out of a place like this?
The realm, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, navigating any far umbral realm is a question of semiotics and symbology. What is the way out? Where is the doorway? Where is the path? Where is the silver thread back to what we know as the world? It's a riddle and an enigma that would take more time than we have, I fear.
Beanstalk will kind of reach a decision and will, in a very guttural kind of barking tone towards Carolyn, I believe. It's like, you. Sorry, before I go into this, Pierre, you were the one who suggested everyone punch at once, weren't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thief, dancer. You said we strike at once. Seems as good a bet as others.
Ah, glad I've got you on board.
I mean, whatever makes you feel good.
Nothing makes me feel that good.
Yeah, Natalia's just going to whisper under her breath, "It can talk."
They actually have a quite fascinating. Time's up. Anyone glancing at the green-robed mage will see his body starting to rotate in the air towards face towards Will Cray and Carolyn Zelrich. Carolyn, you hear, and you are the only person who hears this out of the player group. You hear the soft rustling and clinking of chains, and you start to feel them wrap around you. Only when they become visible a couple of seconds later do other people start to see them as well, as chains, familiar chains to Carolyn, probably not. Oh, Carolyn and Abby Atkinson roll out from beneath the fluttering robes of the mage and wrap themselves around the professor and Carolyn Zelrich, slowly raising them in the air with the glass case shattering into tiny shards around them and falling. It doesn't kind of cascade over you or anything. They kind of almost like with a pop and scatters on the ground among the other shards of glass down there as you are slowly kind of like raised up to an equivalent position with the green-robed mage. Carolyn, everything flickers and judders around you for a second. And then you find yourself in a jungle. There are no chains. It is nighttime. You can hear the cries of animal life. You can feel the kind of hot sweat emerge on your brow as the heat of the place washes over you.
Is the professor here?
Nope.
If I look up at the sky, does it seem like I am on Earth?
I mean, give me a wits plus.
Actually,
you think?
I guess it depends how dense the jungle is in this area. But,
it is quite dense, but you can catch a glimpse of stars. I mean, they kind of look like Earth stars. You think?
Enigmas.
Cosmology.
I do have cosmology. Yeah.
That's Give me an intelligence plus cosmology roll. Yeah, difficulty 7.
Okay, intelligence plus cosmology is 5 dice. So I roll them, and I got 4 successes.
Yes, these are Earth stars. And as you look up and kind of glance around and sort of, maybe that settles you a little bit, although why are you in a jungle? You smell something on the breeze. You smell smoke. And you hear a distant crackling and the howl of animals.
Okay, is there any way that I can see that it would give me a better vantage point to see where that's coming from or what's going on, where the fire is. I'm assuming it sounds like fire.
It does sound like a fire, and it smells like a fire, and it seems to be coming from not too far behind where you are facing.
So I'll try to like, you know, maneuver through fairly dense jungle, and see if I can get a better grip on.
Sure. Kind of towards the sound. Yeah. Sure. Well, after not too long, maybe only a minute or so, as you walk through, you can see, like, you're on a slight rise, and you can see the canopy of the jungle ahead of you, and you can see a fuzzy orange glow spreading rapidly through the treetops with great gouts of smoke kind of rising. You can hear the cries and the movement of animals kind of around you as they try clearly to flee this enormous forest fire. And you hear something else. You hear more regular thumping of a two-legged creature coming through the jungle, kind of fleeing away from the fire in your direction.
Like loud thumping.
I mean,
big thing.
No. Like it sounds like a person running at speed.
Okay. I will attempt to sort of work out where that person is based on the sound and see if I can like get a glimpse of them.
Get a glimpse, yeah, sure.
Or maybe,
you can definitely get a glimpse of them because before another maybe 20 seconds have passed, they emerge from kind of underbrush and overgrowth in front of you. They are a man of maybe early middle years, weirdly undistinguishable, like very average looking haircut. They have disheveled kind of like dinner shirts and formal trousers, and as they whip through the jungle, you kind of like catch a glimpse of someone who seems quite out of place in this. They turn and they look round at you. They are pale as the grave. Sharp fangs emerge from their upper lips, and you can see blood running down their chin and dripping onto their chest. They look feral, beastly, and lost. The fires raging behind them and now kind of like on the edges of your vision are reflected in their honestly quite animalistic eyes. As they catch a glimpse of you, it's a half smile and a half snarl and start to bound towards you.
Okay, as soon as that happens, I'm going to try to open a doorway. I don't know
the very slightest extension of your arete. Like, I'm not even going to ask you to roll to figure out it's not going to work.
Okay, so I sort of try and reach out for it, and I feel nothing.
You literally feel nothing, as if you have no connection to the reality of this place.
I sort of briefly panic, and then I start running. I'm going to try and get some solid objects in between me and...
Sure, absolutely. Could you give me a dexterity plus athletics roll, please?
Okay, that is
standard difficulty is fine.
7 dice.
Ooh.
Good thing I went to lots of practices. 7 difficulty, were you saying?
Mm-hmm.
That is 5 successes.
Nice. Very nice. You feel like you're making pretty good progress against this guy, whoever he is. And as you do so, you kind of like are now kind of panting and heaving with the amount of panicked fleeing from the individual you are doing. You finally come to stop. You can hear and now feel the flames roaring on either side of you and behind you. And you come to kind of a place of rest in a clearing, a grove, and kind of briefly kind of pause to gulp in air. The individual steps out of the trees ahead of you. He takes a single step towards you, reaches out with talons extending from his gaunt, pale hand and says, "He sacrificed everything to serve. Everything. Now you must follow suit." You're not there anymore. You are back in the room. You, however, are paralyzed. You cannot move. All you can do is roughly comprehend what's going on ahead of you. And for the benefit of everyone else, because all of you can see this now, Professor Carolyn seems to be kind of like almost arched back in an unpleasant rictus, and has been kind of like spasming slightly for the last few seconds. It's only been a couple of seconds for everyone else. Professor Cray is kind of looking down at the chains and looking up at the mage, and seems saddened, but also quite curious. "Well, I had hoped to have more time, I suppose, but there's always a limit to these things. I have to say, at points, it's been bloody awful being part of you for the last few centuries." The green-robed mage reaches out, and Will Cray is gone. Just gone. As if he was never there. The green-robed mage shudders in some form of overwhelming spiritual experience. You don't know if it's pain or pleasure or something else entirely other. As he shudders, he like Carolyn kind of arches his back. His arms flex out in kind of like rigid, almost claw-like hands. And as he does so, the hood slips back to reveal the face of Professor Will Cray. But quite different. Much more disheveled, kind of only roughly shaven, and with an odd manic cast to his eyes. Carolyn, for the briefest of moments, you and only you hear a distant, fading, cracking echo of Will Cray's voice in the back of your head. It's said as if, almost apologetically, as this is all the professor can offer you, before vanishing into some strange, unknown gulf of existence. The word is Marauder. I suggest, Pierre, you might want to Control F that in the Mage Core book.
Or maybe
Carolyn,
not on Sleep Tonight.
Carolyn will certainly know what it means. Okay. Right, now that I've confused everyone, let's have... and I would like just a brief moment of reaction, people. I don't think we can carry out an extended activity, although perhaps we can start one and then see if we have time to finish it as we move onwards. But as for any reactions for everyone, and feel free to say my character doesn't react, but this is what I think, you weirdo, Matt. Let's roll through everyone, and let's drop in with Inga first, who is definitely the most looking player on the in our little group here. Inga, is Ria doing anything? Is Inga doing anything?
Ria is like, what? But what are you doing, man? As Maria, that's a harder question to answer. I don't think she knows enough. I don't think she knows
That's
enough
fair.
about what the fuck's going on. Yeah,
That's fair.
This is, I mean, it's definitely confusing. She saw this guy, and presumably we saw like when the hood goes back, we can also see that it's not just
and
Carolyn.
you recognize
right?
it as the man who just disappeared,
that
who
guy
you
was
don't
just back.
know.
Yeah.
But he definitely looks different, much more weathered and warped and unhealthy.
Yeah, just super confused, looking vaguely to Marshall for any kind of guidance or recognition, but otherwise just quiet confusion.
Marshall is probably going to give out another slightly more hushed whoa. Anything from Beanstalk?
Having seen this and spotted the geometry of this, I will turn to
I mean,
Branwen.
I know Chris might have some ideas, but I'm not sure.
Oh,
Beanstalk-
I'm beside myself with fear, and I do not like where this is going whatsoever. And Pierre's about to not like where it's going either once he's read those pages. But Beanstalk doesn't really have much of a clue what's going on, but he does realize that one person from the inside just got sacrificed and pulled into the guy.
sort of, if that's the impression. Yeah.
So he's going to look at Branwen and once again, reverting to Garu because it's quicker, say, we're almost out of time.
Branwen kind of looks back at you and says, yes, this seems difficult. Give me a moment. Don't worry. I'm going to try something. She kind of turns round and is kind of leaning against the glass. She has her eyes closed and she has her hands over her eyes as well to kind of block out all light. And she's sort of muttering something under her breath in a language you don't understand, but it sounds weirdly like trilling and cawing. And just not rolling any of Holly. Holly's always last. John. Oh, no, I read it wrong. It's actually Holly.
Oh, in which case, yeah, Natalia's, as the chains are wrapping around them both, is just going to go, hey, leave them alone. And then when the hood gets pulled back, is leave them alone. Oh, what the fuck?
Sure, yeah. It's weird. It's weird. John, anything from Abby?
I don't think Abby. No, mostly. But considering the layout, she is very worried that she is next.
Sure,
because
right?
she's
Yeah,
clockwise.
She's next. Yeah. If it's going to happen in a clockwise fashion, and let me tell you, it doesn't. Because as you're watching very smoothly and slickly, like there's no, I mean, I guess there isn't friction or less friction because it's air or seems to be air in this realm. What do we want to call him now? Do we want to call him the professor or the green robe, whatever we want to refer to the green Cray? Sure. Kind of rotates and faces Loveland and Natalia Wolf. Natalia, you undergo the same sensation as Carolyn Zelrich. The chains rustling and appearing around you, lifting you up almost insensate as the glass kind of shatters and falls around you. And you only have a brief moment to feel whatever you want to feel fear, defiance, before you are not there anymore. You are in the basement of a large library. There seem to be no real lights around apart from a couple of kind of old, red emergency lights on the walls. It's redolent with the smell of old paper, and somewhere in the distance of this book-filled basement is a tapping noise.
Okay. Yeah, I might as well go towards it. I'm at this point just beyond confused.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to try and go and investigate.
Yeah, this is madness-inducing stuff, right?
Yeah.
You're one place, you're another place. Nothing seems to make sense. As you start moving through the basement towards the tapping noise, it kind of resolves a bit for you as dripping. These drips, when you hear something start to leak, and at first it's dripping, and then you hear more of a rush of water, kind of spurts moving into a rush. It sounds like a very large pipe is breaking, or like, something is giving way and allowing water through.
Okay, I'm gonna try and be sneaky while I'm, because enough weird has happened today that I'm scared of everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna try and be sneaky,
legit.
walking up towards it. But yeah, I'm gonna go and investigate further.
Sure. Well, why don't you give me a stealth roll then? Why don't you give me a dexterity plus stealth roll at difficulty 6? It's a pretty good environment for sneaking in. No.
Yeah, two 10s. No, so
good. Yeah.
And it was difficulty 6, right?
Yeah.
4 successes.
You make no sound as you slip between the shelves, desperately looking for a source of the noise or a way why you're here and a way to get out. As you do so, you hear all of a sudden the sound of rushing footsteps and cries and screams as many invisible people rush around you. You don't feel them. You don't sense them in any way but hearing them. But they are moving around you in where you are, in like the corridors of shelves adjacent to you, rushing away from the increasingly loud sound of surging water.
Okay. I'm just going to like hiss and like maybe try and climb on top of one of the, because is it like floor to ceiling bookshelves?
No. There's definitely they're about halfway up to the ceiling, and the ceiling is probably about 20 feet overhead, so it's quite high.
I'd probably try and climb up away from the people, essentially.
Sure.
Like even if I can't see them, if I can tell that they're there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm going to try and like climb up.
Well, then give me a dexterity plus athletics roll, please. Difficulty, let's say 7.
No successes, because I got a success and a failure.
Sure.
So.
You get part way up the bookshelf, and then it gives way under your weight. Essentially, they're old. They're very battered bookshelves. It gives way under your weight, and you land on the corridor, splashing down knee deep into rushing water. You can hear bookshelves toppling. You can see kind of books and other debris are floating past. You can even in the one red light from the emergency lights over at the wall, which is quite a bit away from where you are, you can see the water swirling and rising around your legs. Visibly see it rising.
Okay. Yeah, panic sets in.
Sure. Yep. Do you want to make a frenzy roll? Do you think that would be appropriate?
Probably, yeah, because I just deciding now, I don't think that Natalia would be able to swim.
Sure. Although that might not hurt you, depending on whether you're still
exactly.
a vampire.
But I think in terms of instinctual panic.
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't think there's no like fire or specifically vampiric trigger. So let's just make it a self-control roll at difficulty 6.
Yeah, cool. Hey, 2 successes.
Okay, you remain in control of yourself, and therefore are stood kind of like staunchly, not kind of just panicking and fleeing when the first thunder rolls across the basement of this library, when the ceiling of the library tumbles and swirls upward into the most... I mean, you could call it a storm front, but it seems more than that. It seems like a roiling mass of spiritual energies, tearing everything else apart, tearing the very fabric of the existence around you away from its moorings. Over your head, impossibly high, circles a figure in some kind of cloak, wielding a lantern in one hand and a scythe in the other. And then this ends. You are back in the room. Again, same experience. People will obviously connect the dots here. You are back in here. Ahead of you, you are similarly paralyzed as Carolyn Zelrich. Ahead of you, Loveland, coiled in chains, is spitting venomous swear words unpleasant, bigoted slander against the floating figure, but all for naught as Loveland starts to desiccate in front of your eyes. Pieces of him fall off his form as he gives out a gurgling, wretched scream, and then seconds later, nothing falls on the floor of the room but bones and ash. Okay, extra reaction times from everyone if they want. Obviously not Natalia or Carolyn, because they are paralyzed and unable to do anything. You can think things, so feel free to say those. But other than that, is there any reaction from Beanstalk?
Still no. So paying a great deal of attention to Bramwin at the minute, and kind of
her meditative, similar meditation-esque thing that she's doing is continuing.
Yeah, in which case, no further actions from this dog.
Okay. And Abby Atkinson.
I shout at the old man opposite me. Is this what you want? Is this the rest you wanted?
He turns and looks over at you and says, "For longer than you can imagine." Inga.
I am just like banging on my glass, like, Marshall! Marshall! Freaking out.
Absolutely. He turns over his shoulder to you and says, "Strength, my lady, strength." Carolyn, like, since you are paralyzed but you can think, would you like to volunteer any impression of what Carolyn's current thoughts are based on the word marauder?
Well, okay, so
but feel free to explain what that means for people.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, marauders are mages who push it too far. Basically, like, they have a sphere of madness, or they have their own sphere of reality, and within that sphere, like, basically what they think goes, and are the rules for the world. They don't experience paradox in the same way that mages do, or they seem to, but it only ever affects like other individuals. They're like the furthest away from like any sort of coherent understanding of the world. And yeah, it's extremely worrying that this guy fits, and this whole situation fits the kind of description of, yeah, what a marauder. I don't know, bubble, is that the word that you'd use?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Except this guy seems insanely powerful. I mean, they all seem...
he's a marauder powerful enough to have evoked his reality.
Yes.
And now you're in it.
Yeah. And... the thoughts that are like going through my head are, relating to the fact that Will Cray said he was like a part of this for a long time. It does seem like an unwilling part of it, and yeah, so this is, I sort of feel like I might be the next, or we might be the next iteration.
Sure. Yeah. He seems to have consumed one of the vampires in front of you in some sense. You don't know what, but there we go. I am happy. We'll drop in again with Carolyn next time, because I'm interested as to whether anything has leapt out, and then we'll jump in at the end of the session for like any theories that people might have on what the hell is actually going on here beyond, oh, it's a marauder and it's crazy and there's all sorts of reality, because clearly the stuff about the professor has something else going on, and I will entertain theories on that at the end of the session. We'll talk about it a bit. I will also, and I rarely address comments in chat, but I feel it's a good question from 42. I think I kind of mentioned, but I was probably very briefly in passing. 42 says, do the others see anything when the person is having their individual adventures? They only see them kind of spasming and going rigid for a couple of seconds. It feels like a lot more time than that to the person undergoing whatever they're undergoing. And speaking of people undergoing things, Rhea, You feel those chains wrapping around yourself. Marshall is still turned and kind of looking at you as you're lifting up, and he looks you squarely in the eye once more and says, "Strength, my lady." And then you are somewhere else, Rhea. You are in what appears to be some kind of factory or manufacturing plant. It is running, and the conveyor belts and racks around you are full of boxes of children's toys with an odd cast to them. There are no workers around you that you can see.
I mean, obviously, I don't know if anyone else has gone through something like this. Like, I guess best guess is like maybe like has a portal worked? Has something released?
Maybe.
So I am gonna just try to leg it in the direction of anywhere that looks like it could be an out, some sort of door, or I don't know if it's kind of the open bit of the factory or something, and
Sure,
just
absolutely.
screaming for Marshall as well.
You are running around for what feels like several minutes, and you don't find any doorways other than ones that lead to additional rooms full of machineries and racks of these toys. Can you please give me a wits plus alertness roll? Difficulty 7, let's say.
That was difficulty 7, was it?
Don't forget, people can still spend willpower in the Marauders realm, by the way. So
yeah, well, no, it's a botch anyway. Yeah, I was going to maybe spend a willpower, but I had 2 1s and no successes. So
okay, I'm going to say you see what feels like. Basically, you see a kind of slightly brighter light at the end of a larger room of conveyor belts and machinery pumping out these toys, and you kind of dash towards it, turn and stumble, and kind of basically semi-cartwheel over a massive stack of boxes of these toys, and kind of just absolutely face plant and kind of skid along the floor. You come to rest in front of one of the boxes and look up to see that inside them, what you took for a large doll is instead what seems to be a dead child with their mouths dripping with some kind of rancid, polluted sludge. As you take this in for a moment and react however you will, I don't know if Rhea will cry out or what kind of reaction Rhea will have. You hear from a kind of stairway and gantry-way up above you over the top of the manufacturing floor, some kind of distant chanting in an unknown language coming from somewhere up there.
I think like up until the point where she finds this, like feeling very disoriented, and like she is used to always finding her way. Like this is like she never gets lost. She always ends up where she's meant to be, like going around and around. Like this is very disorienting. But I think kind of hearing the chanting and the shock of finding that is going to maybe just bring back Marshall's words to find strength and think, okay, well, this is, I think internal sort of thought stream is basically, okay, this is fucking awful, but that's got to be where I've got to go. So I'm going to try and head in the direction of that chanting and,
absolutely,
pull myself together a bit.
Well, you climb up this stairway. It's like, it is like you'd find in a manufacturing plant or a factory, like a steel steps leading upwards to a long corridor that looks more like offices. There are, kind of boardrooms, and there are, employee of the month signs on the wall, and it ends in 2 doors, one of which has kind of like under construction and do not enter tape across it, and the other which is ajar. There is a flickering light from behind the ajar door, and the sound of the chanting is coming from there.
Presumably this chanting means absolutely nothing to me. That there's nothing that I recognize in what I'm hearing.
Absolutely, it is a language completely unknown to you. Oh, do you have like God? Is it called linguistics in Storyteller system, or there is a thing for languages, right? Or did they dump that out of 20th edition?
I think that's gone.
It might have gone.
Yeah, I don't see anything on my character sheet.
Is there anything that you might see and imagine that could apply to linguistics? Probably not.
I've got like grammar if it's something very
No.
like if it's something of that ilk, but no, I don't think so. Academics at
Oddly-
best would be the closest.
Sure, academics. Yeah. Okay. Give me an academics roll with intelligence at difficulty 9.
2 successes, a 9 and a 10.
2 successes. How to
The fewer dice you roll, the more successes. That's the rule.
How to phrase this interestingly. Give me a second. Yeah, okay. Once a wandering storyteller, a wandering Kithane storyteller, traveled all the way from Europe in order to perform at the ladies' event. Like, she brought them all, paid for them to come all the way. You don't know where they were from. You know only that they told a lyrical story of a great warrior's struggle against a giant, an evil demonic giant. They briefly spoke in their own language, and that's what this language is. But you couldn't say where it was from. But you know it's a European language.
Okay. I mean, I have nothing vaguely weapon-like around, right? Fuck.
You could probably, I mean, the doors, you could probably peek through it without committing to going into it.
Yeah. I will try peeking through. I will try peeking through to see what I see.
Well, ahead of you in that room, in the flickering light which briefly illuminates a sign on the door saying Mr. Hunter, inside you see 5 individuals. They look quite young, but their faces are blurred. You do not recognize them, except, oddly, you recognize the clothing of the first woman who was drawn up with the chains, with the older man or the middle-aged man who vanished completely. But her face is blurred here, and she seems lost in some kind of odd magical ceremony or trance, which raises in pitch and in intensity until it's all you can perceive. The chanting moving around and through you, the blurred images of their faces twisting and shifting, until with a start, you are pulled back into the room, held in chains, paralyzed. Ahead of you, you see Marshall, and Marshall is shrinking, reducing in size, not withering, but the blue of his skin is almost sloughing off, his horns diminishing and smoothing against his skull. His mass, he's still a big guy, but effectively his troll seeming is slipping away from him. The white enameled armor melts and drifts away in the air until all that is held in the chains is the young, friendly man, the assistant from the diner. The chains vanish from around you, and you, actually, no, the chains vanish from around him, kind of like open, and Marshall falls and kind of crashes to the floor. If it gives you any comfort, you can see that he is still breathing.
I'm presuming I'm paralyzed, though.
Yes,
I can't.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, can't react in any way. Reactions from, please, Abby Atkinson, if any.
I don't think I have any. Maybe futilely throwing myself against the side of the glass.
Sure, absolutely. Beanstalk, presumably just still waiting on Bramwin to do whatever she's going to do.
Yeah, becoming increasingly the desperation becomes palpable around Beanstalk. The one link he has to some kind of calling seems to be about to be snipped away from him.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So with that, the figure that resembles Will Cray swivels again to face towards the two misty, translucent figures in their own cases. Abby, you feel again the chains wrap around you as you are raised up. The old man seems to be shivering almost in a moment of anticipatory ecstasy before you find yourself somewhere else. And that somewhere else is what appears, for all intents and purposes, to be a slaughterhouse, stinking of meat and fear. The air is cold enough to draw visible breath, and you are breathing. And the chains holding the carcasses up are clinking all around you, seemingly at random.
I don't move.
Sure. How long do you not move for?
It will probably feel like quite long, but I think in the I'm just going to mute you as well.
Yeah, you got there ahead of me.
in the adrenaline rush, it'll actually only be like maybe like 4 seconds or something. And then I guess I will pick a direction that looks like it might have an exit on it.
Sure. As soon as you take a step forward, you hear the sound of rattling gunfire somewhere further into this seemingly kind of infinite slaughterhouse ahead of you. And you hear a kind of very cheery but unsettling voice crowing, "They're here! They've come! I told you! Spooks is here!" And there's the sound of multiple individuals running in your direction with the occasional chatter of gunfire.
I try and get out of their main route, and I hit the ground because I do not want to get hit by a stray bullet if I'm apparently alive.
Well, you see ahead of you, because now you're lower than the swinging frozen carcasses. You see ahead of you 4 pairs of feet dashing through the slaughterhouse towards you. And let me tell you, they are odd feet and legs. One of them has visible spikes protruding from their joints, their knees, and their hips. Another one is weird and almost skeletally thin, with pustules forming under what appear to be a pair of ragged jean shorts. Another has huge, clomping, rock-like feet, and yet a final one has a tail with some kind of spike on the end whipping around behind it. They are heading directly in your direction.
I don't want to encounter these creatures. So I'm going to try and run to the side, I guess.
Absolutely.
Find somewhere to hide.
So as you do so, as you kind of knock the swinging carcasses aside, you hear the chatter of gunfire gaining on until it's almost deafening. You smell this foul, polluted chemical stench, and a voice behind you shrieks in gleeful bloodlust. That's it! We've almost got her now! And you are back in the room, paralyzed and unable to move. Ahead of you, the old man is fading from your sight, bits of him drifting away to mix with the air and spores of the chamber. He shudders in what seems like gratitude at first. A couple of seconds pass, and he starts to slowly shake his head. No, I don't want it now. I don't. He's gone. His corpus entirely evaporated away into nothingness. What is left of him presumably dragged to oblivion, or maybe somewhere else at the behest of the green-robed mage. You are paralyzed. Beanstalk, you're the last one left, along with Branwen. Any actions, thoughts?
I think at this point I will look up at the mage and just with anger replacing desperation now. If you take her from me, there is nowhere you will run to. I will find you, and I will die or I will kill you.
Absolutely. I think, depending on your personal perspective, there is possibly the worst result imaginable for this. The eyes of the green robe mage are they are wild and unhinged, but they are focused. You are almost certain he heard you, and his eyes didn't even flick in your direction. You feel the chains wrapping around you. You feel yourself being lifted up, and then you are in a strange place. Around you is huge steel and iron walls of jagged metal. Even the ground underneath you is plated with this. It is a fantastical place, a strange place, a dead place. Overhead, faded stars wheel slightly in the sky, stars that don't quite match the ones you know, and everything around you is hidden behind an odd, translucent layer of insubstantiality and nothingness. It's definitely there, but it's also dead. You kind of instinctively know this, and you know this as a... Have you got past lives as a background?
No,
or pure breed?
No, all I have is spirit heritage, which is very tangential.
I think that's close enough, though. I think you instinctively know where you are. You are in the land of the dead. As a silent strider, that's a fairly apparent thing for you. There is something battering at the walls and the nearby gates, trying to find its way inside. There are incessant, terrified screams all around you, despite no one being clearly visible. Instead, you can half glimpse shades from the corner of your eyes, cowering or attempting to hide or wrestling with other jagged shapes best not to dwell on. But something is trying to get in.
The walls are high, are they not?
Very high.
I think I'm going to go and stand in front of the gate with a look that would kill and get ready to face whatever comes through that door.
Absolutely. Well then,
100%. Yeah, 100% Krynos form, 100% unhappy.
Yes. Well, I think, if you're going to do that, we don't need to dwell in anything else or make any rolls or anything. A short while later, the battering is joined by a colossal snarling roar, and the gates collapse with a crash. Prowling through from the outer darkness is a enormous fearsome tiger, easily combined many times the size of an entire Garu pack, prowling through, staring at you with a feral look on its face of rage, desperation, but also a terrible, terrible hunger. The tiger takes a further step forwards, and with a snarling growl says in a surprisingly cultured voice, "Revenge. Revenge for my kin, those who bear my name. Everyone runs in the end, pup. Even wolves." The tiger leaps forward, and you find yourself back in the room. Ahead of you, Branwen, who is still twitching and muttering something under her breath. The chains have pinned her arms together, and she's still kind of like holding them over her eyes as the mage draws her upwards and closer. There is a pause, and it is a pause in the mage's breathing as well, and in the low, hushed recitations of what unfamiliar incantations he was performing. He speaks, he looks for a second, an expression you do not recognize washes over his face, maybe the first expression you've seen him adopt, and he says a single word in a language you do not understand with a confused tone. Branwen somehow managed to just wrestle her arms wide enough to bring her hands away from her face, stares him straight in the eyes, and laughs a single harsh, cawing laugh before shouting, "Surprise, asshole!" Her arm jerks forward and she flings something into his face. The chains uncoil around her. She's released and crashes to the ground below with a sickening crunch as the mage reels back and screams, the quill of a large black feather embedded in his eye. One by one, the other chains securing you all go slack. You drop to the ground with a sudden rush of pain, and all the wind driven out of all of your bodies. As you find yourself able to move slowly as the mage twists and writhes, odd shapes and colors sparking out around him in the air as reality is warped in his general surroundings. Branwen kind of tries to heave herself up to her feet and then collapses back slightly. You can see that her one foot is at an odd angle away from her shin bone. She kind of glances up and takes you all in, sort of especially Beanstalk, but all of you, and looks upwards and goes, "Sun's grace, run, run!" And I think we'll end the session there. There we go, folks. Thank you to my wonderful players. Thank you to everyone watching. We will definitely have a bit of a chat. So put some comments, questions in the chat, and John will pop them up for you. You can expect some answers, but not all of them. I've got to hold on to some things. In the meantime, some lovely promo. Check down below. There's a bunch of links to Twitch, links to YouTube. You're watching this on one of those sites. Please check out the other one. Twitch is where you can catch us live, and YouTube is where you can catch all of our archive streams. There's, at this point, hundreds of hours of stuff on there. Systems, various things, something for everyone. There's also links down below to our Patreon, our Discord, our social media. Check those things out. That would be nice. Also, we run 3 weekly campaigns here on Twitch. Mondays is Vason with Johnny and the gang. Wednesdays is Simbroom with me and the other gang. And Thursday nights is Cincinnati Chronicles. We'll probably only have maybe 2 more sessions of this. But yeah, come join us for them if you're interested. We also run one-shots once or twice a month. The next one is this Sunday. That's the 25th of June. We're playing Land of Eam, which is a lovely, whimsical, unreleased role-playing game from Exalted Funeral. That will be we'll be going live with that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon BST. And then next month, we've got 2 motorbike-related one-shots. A Bat Out of Hell themed one and Hell Knight. I forget the name of Hell Knight every time I'm about to say it, which is weird because I'm really looking forward to playing it. But yeah, we'll be playing those next month as well. Yeah, that's it. That's the stuff. Yeah. So, John, do you want to flash us up some questions? And then I'm sure the play. Inga, I've got a question. What the fuck is going on, and what are you doing to us, Matt? Tormenting you emotionally, first of all. And yeah, well, let me actually throw that back out because, right, okay, here we go. I in no way am promising that in character everything is going to be explained. However, I am perfectly happy at the end of the last session to explain everything in like noob to World of Darkness friendly language and also nerdy World of Darkness language. Okay, I'm perfectly happy to do that. However, even things I'm not going to reveal right now, if anyone in the crew says, I think this is what's happening, I will say yes or no to any theories or anything.
Spicy.
I mean, we've had some explanation, right? We know what a marauder is, and we're kind of aware, even if our characters don't, and we're kind of aware, like, this is a mage who just basically says, fuck you, reality, and just does their own thing and sets their own reality and says, fuck paradox, they don't care, because this air of chaos and madness around them suppresses paradox, right? And that we know that this mage is a marauder, and that they're a very powerful one because they have their own realm in the Far Umbra, the Far Spirit world, that is basically their own reality, their own parallel reality that you're now trapped in. And that, I think, goes some way towards explaining the events of the first 5 arcs in some ways, like why this individual could do the things they do. You don't know why they're doing it, and you don't know, like, the nuances of it, but there's elements like that. I am guessing that the main question mark in this, to come from this, that isn't to do with the marauderness, which we now know, is what the fuck with the professor, right? I'm guessing that's the main question. Chris looks like he has a theory.
Oh, yes.
Venture your theory, Chris, and I promise, if it's right, well, I will tell you if it's right or wrong.
Well, the thing is, I don't want to know if it's right or wrong. What I want to do is put it on the table. Maybe not in a sealed envelope, but put it on the table so that when I'm right, everyone can worship me like a living god.
I'm happy to also not confirm if you don't want me to tell you if you're right or wrong. But go ahead with your
no confirmations. No confirmations.
Right. So that is actually Cray. Cray we know is a correspondence mage. This is a probably very high-level botch in a ritual that absolutely quieted him and created basically a paradox doppelganger that became this entity that's stalking us. I'm delighted because this is all very, very neat. What I don't know yet, and I'm really excited to find out about, is what's why we all got pulled into this separately. And also, I would like to add one little anecdote from my time playing Werewolf before V20, or playing WoD before V20. There are 2 creatures in the World of Darkness that you never want to meet. One is a Nexus crawler, and the other is a marauder. So this is not going to end well.
Okay, so you don't want that confirmed or denied?
100%.
Okay.
Do
you
not
close
tell
your
me I know
eyes,
I'm right.
and then Matt can, like...
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like I'm saying, this actual question, I'm not sure it will be confirmed in character. Like what happened, like all that stuff. I will say, I'll say it's a very good theory. That is genuinely not me saying yes or no to it at all. But I like how you arrived at it. So to be clear, you believe that what vanished was the real Will Cray, and what you're now facing is this paradox.
I think it might be a little more complex than that, but I have a feeling they are both the real Cray, but now the slightly less paradoxy Cray is now
Cray from an evil time, from the evil timeline.
Yeah. Cray with the mustache is
with
now
with a goatee in it. Yeah. Sure. Well, I upon request, I will say no more. I mean, obviously, I'll say at the end, right? Because
yeah.
Because that's fun. But
the other thing I don't know if this is a question. I was wondering, like, basically what the visions that we're having are, because they seem historical and related to various things.
That's forming a pentagram on the floor based on the pattern of the visions.
I mean, it does
very good.
Fucking well done, Holly.
You absolute. You. Oh my god, that's just cliche. I love it.
Each of the visions, as Holly clocked, is from the two opposite points of the star. So it had elements of both, right? So whose was first?
Hang on, I've got the list here. Yeah. So Carolyn's was changeling and vampire. Because it was in the jungle that Shere Khan is from, and you were being chased by a vampire.
Well, just a vampire.
Well, yeah.
Oh, did anyone recognize the vampire?
It was it the Prince's Ghoul?
No, it was the Prince. It was the Prince. It was Ludlow.
Oh, yeah. That makes more sense from what he said.
Yeah. Rhea was werewolf and mage.
Yeah, in the manufacturing plant with the circle of mages.
Yeah.
All of your characters.
Yep.
I was mage and wraith because it was the library that we went to.
The basement with the boy wraith and
then
the maelstrom. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Abby was vampire and werewolf.
In the slaughterhouse where you faced Morrow, the Ludlow's ghoul.
Yeah. And then
being chased by the
Banes.
It wasn't the Banes. It was the Fomori.
Yeah,
it's the Fomori, like the Deliverance style. It's coming.
What is Holly called? The Gross Boys.
Yeah. Mikey and what they call Mikey and
they had they had hilarious names.
Really kind of like kind of 50s sitcom type names and
and then obviously Beanstalk was Wraith and Changeling.
In the Citadel, being attacked by Shere Khan. Did you get the little reference in there, Chris, with what he said? Revenge for my kin.
At the time.
Revenge for my kin who share my name. The breed of Bastet, who are tigers, are called Khan.
Oh, and they're angry because
Changing breeds, war of rage.
Yeah.
Which tallied in nicely with your character's interest, I thought.
So this is a question I wanted to ask. Did you start to build this around the backgrounds we'd sent to you beforehand when you realized that I was going off on the kind of Beanstalk is now going to try and heal some wounds with the changing breeds? Or is that
I didn't build it around that. I didn't build it around that. I knew I wanted you to undergo some kind of like. To be brutally honest, like I knew there would be something like of undergoing some kind of like spiritual experience or like alternate experience during this the rough story for this session. It's not until this morning that I wrote these bits. So because I do a mix of like sort of doing the overall arc planning and like this will happen in this session and this, but I need to adapt to like what's happened to fill in the like details and the blanks. So the reason why I specifically had him said that was literally just because I was going at Shere Khan and it just entered my head. Oh, the Khan, I'll do something about. Oh, and that mixes nicely with. So to answer, it kind of was a happy accident, but a happy accident I realized as I was writing it was happening. Does that make sense?
Well, it's been well executed, and I am in awe and terrified.
Yeah, has anyone else got any theories? All right, has anyone else got any alternate theories about?
I've got a theory. It's similar to Chris's, but mine is that it is a future version of Cray, and we, in our events in Cincinnati that night, somehow messed up Cray's timeline and prevented that Cray from becoming Green Robe Cray. So Cray is trying to correct the timeline by messing with us.
Again, I will neither. Well, do you want that confirmed or denied, Holly? It's up to you.
No, I don't.
Okay. I will confirm or deny all these player fan theories until until the last.
What a generous GM offering to tell us outright yes or no. Look at us being like, no, we're going to play it out, guys.
No,
Well,
because you see,
what does that tell you? That it wouldn't matter if you knew.
it also robs us of the pleasure of being correct by being correct early, but not knowing you're correct early. So
Yeah, but you are self-robbing yourself of that, so it's fine. Yeah, any other questions or ideas or bits and pieces? Holly, well fucking done on the pentagram thing. Well done.
Oh, look, I'm gonna recognize a pentagram. If there's
Sure,
anything
sure.
I'm gonna recognize, it's
pentagram
gonna
to
be
find.
a pentagram.
Holly will find the
Sure.
pentagram.
Weirdly, you'll be alarmed that my first idea for it evolved into a pentagram as I was like thinking about it. But my first idea of it was I was like, I want to combine the like things together in some way. And I had 5 individuals, and you know what sprang immediately to mind? It wasn't a pentagram, it was Magic the Gathering. The color star.
Yeah.
That would have been
But,
worse. Yeah.
That.
But
I'm glad you went with the
it is now
pentagram.
meant to be a
Combine
pentagram.
all the nerdery.
I mean, the color star is
Is a pentagram.
wait,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a star, not a pentagram. But
Yeah.
yeah. It's the same. Yeah, it's 5-pointed, and it's each one is opposed by 2 things, which gave me the idea. And then I was like, oh, that'd be like a pentagram. That's way cooler than the Green Robe Mage is trying to replicate the magic color.
Green
color wheel.
Robe Mage just has a really lit green deck, and now we're in great trouble.
Yeah, you're going to be up to your elbows in 1/1s any moment.
He's
now.
going to have so many tokens, you don't even
Please
know.
no.
You have no
Please
idea. A little bit of magic.
I
here
wish
as
I had
well.
no idea.
Yeah. Steve says, careful of stepping on Wizards of the Coast trademarks. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. We've got a bunch more comments, haven't we, John? We're still stuck on Inga as well. Steve, you'll have to find all the audio logs and discover the secret vault to know for sure. Yeah. You have to get the special cutscene. You have to find all the audio logs, definitely.
And get the passcode number that you like enter into a little yeah.
Next. John, her ears are slightly less pointy than they used to be. Are we talking about anyone in particular?
That was Ria's banality.
Oh, yeah.
They rounded off.
Yeah.
Lower quality
Devastating.
LARPing components.
They don't quite match, like they're obviously latex now. They don't quite match the rest of the color of the ears.
Absolutely.
So the thing is, like, how dead is Marshall in this situation? Because changelings have a weird interaction with death.
They do.
So,
but does anyone? Here's an interesting question. 42 seems more like a blue control deck. Yeah, I'm the blue control deck in this thing with my horrible railroading. But here's an interesting question about theories as well, because we talked about why did the professor disappear and why does the Green Robe Mage now look like the professor and stuff like that? Because of course that didn't happen when the other people had various things happen to them. Do we have any theory on what's broadly being done? Because they've all reacted differently, haven't they?
yeah, because like what he, for each of the systems, he's pulling out their bits, isn't he? Like if you could, the vampire was desanguinated, the glamour was pulled out of Marshall, so everyone is getting their bits stolen.
Yeah,
basically he's pulling quintessence.
Does that affect your theory about the professor?
He might have been a different type of mage.
Yeah, it depends whether a mage's powers are inextricably linked to their body.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, technically, if he's in his quiet, he already has infinite quintessence. So what is he doing? Borrowing other people's.
You can always grab a little bit more.
Yeah.
Borrowing is a really nice word to use there, because that implies people are getting this stuff back, but
With
I'm not sure
interest.
that's going to happen. Stealing, maybe, rather than violently taking.
If anyone is curious or worried that like the bit at the end with Branwen is like a bit of Deus Ex, sort of thing, it is obviously to a certain degree. But for anyone who's curious, she literally used a specific Korax gift that I judged in what's happening would definitely work. she had an actual Korax gift get out of jail free card
Top
that
nerding.
I didn't know about until I read it today, and was like, "This is." It was the same kind of gift from fucking heaven as when I was prepping for Changeling and was like, "Oh, in a town near Cincinnati, there's an order of knights with a fucking castle." Because I knew roughly what I wanted to happen, and I opened the Korax book and read this gift and was like, "Oh yeah, this would actually work, unlike almost everything else anyone might try." So
what was
also-
the plan if you hadn't spotted that? Like, was this just going to be
I'd
like
fudge it.
she also
I'd fudge
dies,
it.
or
No, I'd fudge it. I'd fudge it somehow.
He'll fudge it.
Like, it's
No
just
fact.
like
I mean, no,
essentially the same thing was going to happen. It's just this gave me an in-universe excuse to make it happen. As happy coincidence.
also, like, double
Similar.
fair play for saving my lore girlfriend, which is very appreciated.
That's unhealthy. Have we got any more comments, John? Steve, this is like all those unskippable cutscenes from computer games where the arch nemesis kills your puppy. Well, if we're going to hammer it home that I'm railroading, then yeah, I guess it will. Like, obviously, there's been a bit more freedom in this one than in the first thing. I think.
I think
weirdly, yes, that kind of there has. It's almost as
Yeah,
bad as that time
yeah.
Matt destroyed Chris's beautiful spaceship in Coriolis. Yeah.
I was getting very angry towards the end there. The March of Inevitability.
Yeah. The last two sessions are definitely going to be much more open. Because now you got to, run. Do something, probably. One last word. I would like to point out that the thing I'm smuggest about in this entire session was that, ladies and gentlemen, you just had a literal bottle episode.
Yay! Hey, bottles need like you should have put stoppers in the top of these things, you know.
Right.
Just a giant cork in the top.
Yeah. There's this comedy cork in the top, but you can't move it.
That adds gravitas to the scene. Yeah, I think the original idea I had when I had the idea for the arcs was I was almost going to, and this is the kind of like borderline experimental shit I always like the idea of, and then always fucking wuss out of actually doing, is I was literally going to say, right, you're all here, you're all in the glass cases. Okay. And then basically not speak for 2 hours. And just have you all have to communicate with each other and come up with plans. And like, if you went, Matt, can I do this? I'd go like, yep. Or whatever, or like just respond as minimally as possible. And literally just let you stew in the cases for like, it's an idea I weirdly also had for another series on this channel, which I didn't do because it didn't quite work out that way. It was weirdly also World of Darkness because it was the end of the
I remember it.
I was going to say,
not the first bottle episode you've done.
But like, we didn't end up returning to that series, but if we had, it would have started with a bottle episode where you were all just there and nothing happened until right at the very end. So I did, and I didn't even remember that I was planning that until I'd already planned this and went, oh yeah, I guess I only have one idea. So there we go. All right, folks, unless there's any more quick questions or comments, we will leave a line under the stream there. Thank you so much to my lovely players. Thank you so much for watching Cincinnati Chronicles, whether you did it live or on YouTube. And we will we return next week? When is the week off? It's the week after next, right? That we can't do? Yeah. So
first week of July.
That's the one. So we will be back next week for episode 3. Then we'll take a week off. Then we'll have the finale, if all goes according to plan.
Give you a bit of suspense.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's why we planned it. So there we go. Take care and stay safe out there, people. We will see you next week. Farewell. Goodbye. Bye.
Bye.